Well, that was unexpected. Yes, Pokemon Day 2024 has given us the announcement that we will in fact be getting Pokemon Legends Z, and wow. I'll be discussing the trailer and everything we know, so get ready because it's time to return to Kalos. So from the very beginning of the trailer, we get a look at some plans for developing Lumio City. The title reads Urban Development Plan, so that potentially gives us a hint toward when these games take place. Being a Legends game, the assumption is that it takes place in the past, just like Legends Arceus. But I know from the cinematic presentation we see a city that already looks developed, and it's given this bright outline style that makes it look futuristic. But I think that's only to show off the concept in a cool way. It begins with a Pikachu being sketched on paper after all, this is kind of just these sketches come to life. The official website does read that a new adventure awaits within Lumio City, where an urban development plan is underway to shape the city into a place that belongs to both people and Pokemon. That sort of implies that it takes place in the past where people and Pokemon are just beginning to come together, like in Legends Arceus. The modern day Lumio City that we know from the original X and Y games are already a place for both of them, so I think that we will indeed be part of a founding or rebuilding into the place that we know. If it takes place around the same time as Legends Arceus, that being the equivalent of about 200 years ago compared to our real world, then that almost lines up with when the Eiffel Tower was built in Paris, which is the inspiration for Lumio's tower. We get a very brief glimpse of the clothing people will be wearing, and it looks more traditional rather than futuristic. Also, there's still classic architecture and trees, so that's what I'm thinking. This does mean that it will be more recent than the 3,000 years ago when the war took place, and boy am I glad I wasn't ready to fight on the front lines. The cinematic itself doesn't show all that much to speculate on. It is meant to be a representation that gives an idea of what to expect, and shows off the people and Pokemon of the region. But back to that concept of urban development, there was an interesting tweet made by Nintendo that gives us an important detail. It refers to the game as, quote, a new adventure set entirely within Lumio City. Now, it's really early and this was made by Nintendo rather than being outright stated in a trailer from Pokemon, but if that's the case, well, I don't have much of an opinion until I see some gameplay. But in the trailer they did show off the map of Lumio, so having this as most of the explorable area will be fun. The city we got to explore on X and Y in the 3DS was already big and had a lot to discover. It was cut up into different sections, some only accessible later in the game, and really worked as the central location of a region. Anyway, from the map in the trailer, it appears that there are 5 distinct sections. Very similar to what we saw in Hisui. Being brought to life on modern Nintendo hardware would really allow it to be expanded in a meaningful way, though I will say that having a main series Pokemon game take place entirely in one city kind of eliminates the fun that we experienced in Legends Arceus. I'm going to assume that they wouldn't completely get rid of grasslands and natural environments. I think that would be the wrong choice. But I have a feeling that if we don't get to explore the whole Kalos region, there would at least be wild area outside of each section, because how else are you going to catch wild Pokemon? Like I said, it's really early to make any definitive claims, especially because we're so far off from the release day, so keep that in mind. Though the main focus is to develop Lumio City and it's the central hub where a good portion of the story takes place and we get to see the progress, much like Jubilife Village in Legends Arceus, and that sounds like a great idea. I will say that the choice of doing Pokemon Z this time around is actually perfect, because it was the one game that felt like it needed to happen but didn't. So taking that concept and turning it into a Legends game just sounds like a dream come true, because now we get the full story behind Zygarde. Just a lot of the elements of a potential Pokemon Z really were shoved into Pokemon Sun and Moon, and they had a cool enough execution in those games, but it did feel like they should have been even more. I wonder if Zygarde will be under the control of an evil organization or go mad after the modernization of the world threatens nature in some way. There's a lot of potential for loose plotlines to be picked up and the lore to be expanded. There's a chance AZ shows up because he's always been there, though he probably wouldn't have a full redemption. That already took place in the events of X and Y, though the fact that the name of this game is basically his name reversed is pretty significant. But as far as whatever he's going to be doing depends on when the game takes place. Again, I do think this will be in the past, but when it comes to the protagonists, we don't know where they'll come from. If it follows the same setup as Legends Arceus, then they'll be from the modern day being transported to the past, meaning that the events of the original game still need to happen, so AZ needs to be in the same place emotionally by the end of this game. There is also the fact that for those 3,000 years he was wandering the entire world, maybe he wasn't even in Kalos during the time of Lumio City's redevelopment. It's kinda difficult to pin down a character with a lifespan of over 3,000 years. There are a lot of things to speculate going forward, but we'll have a lot of time given that Pokemon ZA won't come out until 2025. I'm going to assume it'll be early in the year given how soon we're hearing about it, but that is still totally fine with me. So based on the trailer and the announcement, let me know what you think in the comments below. Are there any ideas that you found, and what are your ideas going forward? As we get even more information, I'll definitely be making more content about Pokemon ZA as well as the usual stuff. Anyway, I should be off to cook up some theories and get started on my own redevelopment. Thank you to every channel member for your continued support, especially the great gators like Kaden Herb, Panchoni OSC, Leafy Lilith, Skyraker, Evie, Victor Brine, Dijon, Matthew Kelly, Mushar Siddiqui, Jacksident Prone, Gallantry, GatorKid 509, TF, Cheeseburger Lasers, Thimin Van Ryn, Cynical Medic, Post Training Arc, Cyberman, Choco Swig, Foxy Gamer 179, Bjorn the Fell-Handed, Ruby Trans Cutie, Ben's Quizon, Marzi Beast, Bartholomew, the one girl into video games, Peel the Genius, DeAndre, 961 Pro, Justin Dowes, Mathaclock 947, Lockadox, Nomad Nobi, Swiss Cheese, Pastel Blood, Taijirai, Justin R, Volity, Cosmo Zero, Phantom, and Quago. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, and sometimes early videos, you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes. Anyway, this is GatorX, and I'll catch you all later.
Two worlds collide. Powerful Pokemon shape the future. Pokemon Trading Card Game XY Fates Collide. In stores now. Each booster pack of 10 cards sold separately. Cards vary by pack.